You are welcome to the Guru's Perspective, and don't forget, a few minutes ago we were just discussing the subject matter of Court of Appeal that became the first court of instance to preside over the presidential election that held on 25th of February this year. And the judgment had been given. We've spoken about that. The whole world, we all have details of the judgment now. And it has not been moved, but both parties, I'm talking of PDP and Labour Party, they've indicated their interest to appeal the judgment because all of them say, no, this is bastardization of. Do I have the authority to comment on it now? Yes, I have full authority because it is not sub judice now. Because the judgment having been delivered by Court of Appeal, there is no case. This case is no more in the domain of Court of Appeal. And having not yet filed an appeal to the Supreme Court, the Supreme Court had not admitted the judgment in its domain. So neither the Supreme Court, which is waiting to admit, nor the Court of Appeal, none of them is presiding over this matter. So I can make my comment without being a victim of sub judice. So that's why I'm free today. Now they might move, therefore, as indicated by the two parties. I'm talking of PDP and Labour Party. But what are your expectations? In your comment, please, remember to drop your expectations. Please, very, very vital in the comment section. Remember. You have your expectations. I have my expectations. I can only express mine. And in expressing it, it might tally with many expectations. Will something good come out of Jerusalem as far as this case is concerned? Will the Supreme Court be able to turn the judgment? Of course it could, and it might not. I remember vividly a former Chief Justice of America who made the statement that the judge who had the right to give good judgment has the right also to give bad judgment. I'm not saying that the Supreme Court this time will be that we're expecting them to give bad judgment or right judgment, but we're expecting Supreme Court to evaluate all the facts that will be produced by the petitioners, and of course the respondents will be there to and they will give their judgment. But let us look the factors that may work against or for the judgment that has just been delivered. One, the first general election in this country was 1923, 100 years ago, when 4 seats, legislative seats, were contested for in Lagos, and 1 legislative seat was contested for in Calabar. That was the first general election in Nigeria history. It happened in 1923. I forgot it, either November or something, but I think somewhere they did, either 20th or 20 or 8, but it was 1923. So 100 years down the line, there have been many, many elections. All of them parliamentary elections, because they are the legislation that we do, until 1979, before we had our first presidential election. Because the 1979 Constitution created and move us from the parliamentary system of government into a presidential system of government. And of course, before 1979, there was this 1959 high voltage election that ended up in court. So meaning, before even our independence, Nigeria elections have always gone through the trajectory of judicial intervention. Now, the question is this: at the point that you conduct your election, and who are the deciding factors of any democratic election? They ought to be the electorate. You taking your PVC, what we call PVC today, which will give you different name and different time, to the polling booth, cast your vote for the person of your interest. You are supposed to be the deciding person in any election. But I am afraid the way we've gone and still going, we have left the responsibility. Would it be correct for me to say we have left? No, let me put it this way. The responsibility of electing our president has been taken from us by a compromised Nigerian system and given to the judiciary. So therefore, or what do we say, ipso facto, I will establish a fact here. It might not be a fact, but I will establish as a fact here that since the intervention of a corrupt and compromised system, the Nigeria system, we have lost, the Nigeria electors have lost the opportunity or the privilege of electing their president. That had been given unwillingly to the judiciary. And when the judiciary pronounces, therefore, shall we say is a de jure president or de facto president? Let me leave that for interrogators of history to delve into and come up with conclusion for us. But having said that, another thing we would want to establish that when shall we retrieve back the authority, the dignity, the glorious method which the electorate has of electing their president? When shall we retrieve it from the judiciary and return it back to the people? That's the question every Nigerian should be looking, endeavoring to get an answer for. Because that is the point. For today, it is the judiciary that gives us our president. It is not the electors, the electorate. No, we've lost it. But must it continue like that? No. How can we bring it back so that it becomes the responsibility of the electorate to produce their president? Again, the president given to us by judiciary, can we say that is our elected president, or shall we say is our selected president, or shall we say is our appointed president? If it is our appointed or selected, either we use the words the judiciary select and give to us, or the judiciary appointed for us. How deep is that system of democracy being practiced? So it is for that reason that Nigeria should look for a way to return the trajectory, to return the mantle of electing a president back to the electorate than the judiciary doing it. Having said that, what are my expectations in what the Supreme Court might come out with? It all started in the most havoc manner in 1979, when the matter went to, that was the first presidential election we're having in this country. The matter went to the Tribunal, which was Supreme Court, and Supreme Court ended everything. And on the day of judgment, the issue of who became elected president of Nigeria was based on 12 to 3rd. He became a mathematical president, 12 to 3rd, which was led very successfully by the late Richard Akindele, a man I refer to as a corporate Nigerian himself. And on the side of Obafemi Awolowo, every point was argued. And on the day the Supreme Court sat to give the judgment, the first thing the court announced was that the judgment they were going to give that day, has been, is it embargoed? Yes, embargoed or banished from judicial, that is, it must not be referred to in any as a precedent in any judicial matter that has to do with this. The first responsibility of the Supreme Court then was to embargo the judgment it was to give. And after the judgment was read out, then they told us that 6 months, it would take 6 months for the court to come back to tell Nigerians why the judgment was delivered the way it was delivered that day. 6 months later, the Supreme Court of Nigeria respected and honored its promise, and they came back to tell us. I think the chairman then of the tribunal, or what I call the panel, the late Douglas Graham, was the one who now read the reason why the judgment went the way it went. And of course, we all knew Chief Shagari got it by calculation, mathematical calculation of 12 to 3rd. He told the Nigerians, told the whole world, that the Supreme Court is not always court of justice. It is equally court of administration. That's one. Two, that the judgment as they gave it 6 months ago was not based on principle of justice, but it was based on principle of safety and security for Nigeria and Nigerians. Then he went to explain that as of the time they gave the judgment, when the case was going, that every justice on that panel had it in mind that General Olusegun Obasanjo, their head of state, was conducting Shehu Shagari, the elected, controversially but elected president, was conducting him around the Doda Barras Kishnet. This was the language of the Supreme Court. And that was showing him everything in, and as of the day they gave the judgment, everything in Doda Barras, in the office, the kitchen, and everything would have been shown to Shehu Shagari by head of state, Olusegun Obasanjo, General Olusegun Obasanjo. And considering the mortars, those tanks, those dangerous weapons, mounted already at Tafawa Balewa Square, awaiting the D-Day for the celebration, that it will be suicidal for a judgment that will come to remove the person that have been prepared for all this one. That is Shehu Shagari. That there is no judgment or there is no panel that will not think of the security implication for Nigeria to deliver a judgment that is contrary to expectation. It is for that reason that they came on that judgment. I took this as a precedent. And every other time they go to court, I now conclude that why are you going to court? Having not been able to amend the Nigerian Constitution, it is what we have done before, the same result we get. And what is that result? Very, very dangerous result. I will come back to tell you about that result. So by the time I finish telling you about the result, your expectation of Supreme Court in this incoming case that is going to the Supreme Court might not be too different from me. But why don't you wait until I return back? The Guru for now stands out. But lay your comment on the comment box, please. I shall be back.